everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Elizabeth Coots. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent with Woodford County. And today we are going to be, of course, continuing with our monthly series of calendar cooking. We are in the month of May, so we are going to highlight the May recipe. And this is a recipe that I really like, not just because it is a recipe, but because there's like two recipes in one kind of. This recipe for May is the Master Mix pancakes. So we are not only going to make pancakes, but we are going to make a mix that you can use as a quick way to make pancakes. It can replace a commercial pancake mix that you might buy. So I just want to talk a minute about the calendar. If you aren't familiar with the calendar, we have these 2021 food and nutrition calendars, which is part of the University of Kentucky Extension Service. We have these available for you here at the Woodford County Extension Office. We're located at 184 Beasley Drive in the county park, so you can come out and get one of these calendars if you don't have one yet. If you're outside of Woodford County, you can contact your local extension service to get one of these calendars. There's an office in every county, but you are certainly more than welcome to come over to Woodford County and get a calendar. So let's get started with our recipe. The first part of the recipe is to make the master mix. So we are going to go ahead and do that. The recipe calls for 4 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 cups of 100% whole wheat flour. And then we have sugar, baking powder, and baking soda. So I'm going to start this recipe by measuring the flour and actually showing you how to measure flour. You might think that that's a really simple thing to do, which maybe it is, but there's a little hint to make sure that whatever you're baking, in this case, of course, pancakes, is not going to be dense. So you might just think that it's okay to scoop out some flour like this, shake it off, make sure it's level, and now I have a cup of flour. Well, you do in a sense. However, flour is an ingredient that can be compacted down. So I can push it down and pack more and more flour in here. That's not good, because when you do that, basically you're going to have more flour in this 1 cup than you really need. And that is going to make your pancakes or your biscuits or your cake more dense. So what you want to do is have a smaller scoop. This is just for literally scooping the flour up. And I have my 1 cup measuring cup here that I need. I'm just going to sprinkle the flour into this measuring cup until it's mounded. Okay, you can see it's piled up there. And I'm going to scrape it off with the flat edge of a knife. So I'm going to measure 4 cups just like that. And each one, of course, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to sprinkle until it's mounded up, level it off, and that's 2. And I have already measured my whole wheat flour. That was in the bottom of this container here. I'm going to do 1 more cup. So again, it's 4 cups of all-purpose flour and then 2 cups of 100% whole wheat flour. So I'm going to sit this over here to the side. I'm going to leave this 1 cup out because I'm going to use that for our recipe. So now there's a couple more ingredients that we are going to put in here. We have 2/3 a cup of sugar. And now this is the part where I'm going to say I'm changing the recipe a little bit. I normally, when I am cooking on these programs, I stick to the recipe. But as you know, I am always encouraging you to do what your family likes, do what you like, and change the recipes. When baking, there's only so much changing, of course, you can do. But with this ingredient, sugar, 2/3 of a cup, I thought that it was a little much. I don't need my pancakes to be that sweet, especially when I'm going to be putting syrup or honey or sorghum on top of them. I don't need a lot of extra sugar. So I'm actually going to cut that sugar in half, and I'm going to do just 1/3 a cup of sugar in this recipe today. So then we have 2 tablespoons of baking powder and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. So I am going to take my whisk and just stir all of this together. And since this is kind of a tall, narrow container, I'm going to tilt it, kind of roll it around, because I want to make sure, of course, that all of my ingredients are mixed thoroughly together. I want to make sure that whole wheat flour on the bottom comes up to the top, and that the baking soda and baking powder and sugar gets mixed in with the bottom. I want to make sure that it is consistent. So I can look down and see that there's a little more whole wheat flour since it's a different color. I'm just going to mix just a little more. I want to make sure it's thorough. Okay, so I'm going to set this over to the side. We're going to use that, of course, for our pancake recipe, but I'm going to set that to the side now. And now we're going to mix up our pancakes. So the pancake recipe calls for the liquid ingredients first. So we have 1 egg here. And then we have 3/4 cup of milk. And with milk or any other liquid, remember to use a liquid measuring cup, which is just like this one, and the measurements are on the side. So 3/4 a cup of milk, and particularly skim or low-fat milk in that case. And then we have vanilla. We have a teaspoon of vanilla. And we also have 1 dry ingredient that we're adding here, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. It'll mix together a little better at this step than it would with all the other dry ingredients. So I'm just gonna mix all this together until the egg and the cinnamon, because the cinnamon likes to clump up a little bit, until it's all mixed together, just like this. And while I'm doing this last step, I'm gonna reach over here and turn on my griddle. I have an electric griddle here, okay? So I'm gonna leave that whisk in there. The next ingredient is 1 cup of our master mix. So I am again going to measure my master mix the same way that I measured flour. So I have my small scoop and I'm going to sprinkle it in to my larger 1 cup measuring here. And I'm gonna mound it up, push that up there so you can see it. And I'm gonna scrape it off with a flat edge. And that will go in, just like that. Again, if I had measured that and scooped it up and just, kind of shook it off, this would have made a denser pancake. I would have had basically too much flour in my recipe. All right, so I'm just gonna stir till it's combined. I don't wanna overmix it. And I have a rubber scraper here that I'm just gonna scrape the edge of my bowl, make sure there's no dry bits here. And I'm gonna leave that rubber scraper in there because I'm gonna use that when I am finished on my last bit of pancake. So I have my griddle here. I'm gonna spray it just a little bit. It feels like it might be a little too hot, so I'm gonna turn it down just a little. So the recipe says to use a 1/3 measuring cup to measure the pancakes out. And you don't necessarily have to do that, especially if you wanted your pancakes smaller or maybe a little bit bigger. But you might try the 1/3 cup and just see the size that it makes to see, oh, that's a serving of pancakes. So, because pancakes is one thing that, maybe we eat too many pancakes, or we only have 2 pancakes, but they're as big as our plate. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure. I think I can fit 4 pancakes in my skillet here. I'm gonna let those cook. And the recipe makes about 6 pancakes about this size, about 5 inches or so. So I'll get 4 on here and then I'll be able to make 1 more. And oh, they're so close over there. That's okay then. So I will scrape the rest of this out to make 1 more pancake. Now, while these are cooking, I just want to share with you something else that I like to do at home when I have pancakes. This is not in the recipe. This is kind of just a little addition to the pancake recipe. But I have over here in the corner, and I know it's hard to see because the skillet is black, but I put in here earlier, and not that much earlier, maybe 10 minutes, some frozen fruit. It's a mix of raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries. And all I did was put the fruit in its frozen, just straight from the freezer, in the pan here, and I let it cook. I let it get to where it was about bubbling. Don't want it to boil because it'll burn, but just bubbly, and we just want this to thicken up. Basically what I'm making here is almost a fruit syrup. And I'm gonna use this instead of maple syrup. This is just something that I like to do that adds a little more flavor to my pancakes. And of course, it's a little healthier because it's fruit. One thing that you could do with this fruit mixture too, because again, I know it's hard to see because my pot is black here, but the blackberries are a little big, and that might be a little too big to eat on your pancakes for your preference. So you could take a potato masher and mash your mash your fruit so that it does kind of clump up and make more of like a jam kind of consistency. But I really enjoy that over my pancakes at home. Just a little addition there. So my pancakes are starting to bubble on the top here. So I'm going to flip them over in the order that I put them in. And these two over here got a little close. I'm going to separate them and flip them here. Oop. It's always nice when you can flip the pancake out and not slop your batter all over. So I'm gonna let these brown up on the other side. And while those are finishing, I want to bring in here the rest of my meal. So one thing that I really like about the calendar, and if you've watched me cook with the calendar recipes before, you know this, but it gives some information, some, like I said in the beginning, tips and tricks about physical activity and eating healthier and even gardening. But on each recipe on the calendar part at the top, it gives you a suggestion to make it a meal. And a lot of times with pancakes, we just have pancakes and syrup and we call it done. Well, there's some things that you might consider adding to your pancake meal just to round it out and to make it more of a hearty meal. So the suggestion for the pancakes for the May recipe is breakfast sausage, strawberries, yogurt, orange juice, and then coffee or tea. So as you see here today, I have strawberries, yogurt, and sausage. I also have some orange juice over here. So I'm gonna go ahead. My pancakes are nice and golden brown on the other side, as you can see there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pile these up. And I'm gonna put 2 of them on my plate. That's what a serving size for this recipe is. It's 2 pancakes. Okay, so these other ones I'm gonna set over here to the side, and then I'm going to put my last 1 pancake in there. But I'm gonna take some of this fruit, and let's see if I can hold it up maybe. It's really dark to be able to see, but you can probably see it when I put it on top of my pancake here. But you can see too, and I'm actually gonna pull this over to this camera so that you can see it. Turn it that way. But you can see how the fruit is clumped together. You can see it's all steaming there too. So again, it's more of a, kind of like a jam, it thickens up as you cook it. So just an option. You can also do that with fresh fruit. And of course, we have strawberries on our plate. And in Kentucky, strawberries are really close to being in season. It's about that time to visit your local farmer's market and get some local strawberries. So I hope that you will make this recipe at home. Maybe make the master mix and keep that. One thing I didn't mention about the master mix, and I have here, is an airtight container, okay? You wanna make sure to put a lid on this and store this. And it would be best, since this has whole wheat flour in it, to store it in the refrigerator or the freezer. It will just keep a little bit longer that way. So remember to come by and get a calendar or stop by your local office to get a calendar. And if you have any questions about this recipe or anything else, feel free to contact me here at the Extension office. Again, my name is Elizabeth Coots and I am the Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next month as we continue the calendar cooking program. Bye, everybody.